Hey y'all, and welcome back to the homestead. So I was thinking that for today's video we could go out in the garden and I could just kind of do a big overview tour of the whole entire garden, because I don't think we've actually done a whole garden tour since the very first video that we went out to the garden. And so many things have changed, so many things have gotten bigger, and they're just very fruitful, and so I wanted to share that with y'all. And then plus for dinner tonight, we're going to use harvest from the garden to make dinner, and we're making a zucchini lasagna, so I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and hang out in the garden for a little bit. So here as the entrance of the garden, we have a trellis that is full of loofahs. Now, okay, well, it's a loofah plant. We don't really have any loofahs on it yet, but there are tons and tons of flowers. And every morning as we come out here, there are so many bees all over the place. So I know it's just a matter of time before they start coming. But then as you see here, when we first walk in, the first 3 rows is we have 2 rows of corn, which are doing so well. Sorry, Rambo definitely wants to be a part of the show. But the corn's doing really well. We had a really bad storm a handful of weeks ago, and we thought a lot of the corns were gonna they were broken, they were leaning over, but they recovered and they're doing great. We now have a row here of okra. When we first planted this row of okra, it came up really quickly. Like, we planted it by seed and then it came up really quickly. And then all of a sudden, it's like it got to a certain height and it just quit growing. And so I was really scared that maybe our soil wasn't good enough. But after watering consistently for a few weeks, it just popped up. And these things have a ton of okra on them. This one has one right here, you can see there, and it has another flower here, so we're going to be getting some more. But I can come out here nearly every single day and get probably like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 things of okra. And we've been having a lot of fun with our okra. Okay, now this is a perfect example. I have not been out here to harvest in a couple of days. And so if you see these okra right here, this one is really, really big. And so that is actually not ideal for eating. So I'm either going to preserve this to, I don't know, maybe put in like a soup, or I may just give the chickens a treat. Another little update is that we were weeding the garden, and I'll be honest with you, I was having a really hard time staying on top of it. And so we realized out in the barn, we actually had some of this woven like weed fabric, and we only had enough to do like 2.5 rows. So as you can see here, like between the okra and the tomatoes, I was only able to go about halfway down. So we ordered some more, and we're gonna I think it's gonna come in within like 5 days. So hopefully when that comes in, I'll just have to weed the rest, and then there's a few rows over that way, and we'll just weed those down, put this fabric down, and I will make the garden so much easier to manage. Next to our okra is we have 2 trellises of tomatoes. Now we are doing a lot of different varieties of tomatoes. We're kind of just trying to learn what's best, what we love the most, what we like that tastes the best, and what just grows better here in our soil. So a lot of these up here are brandywine, and we bought a bunch of brandywines, and that was mainly because when we went to the store to get tomato plants, we saw this older gentleman, and he was stocking up on the brandywine tomato plants. And so our idea with that was that he's probably been growing. I mean, like, look how big that tomato is. A squirrel, but like, here's my hand. And that's how big that thing is. It's massive. It's so pretty. But like I was saying, he was getting a lot of different brandywines or brandywines. And so our thought process was, he's probably been growing here a long time. And so let's get what he's doing, because he probably knows what does well here in our area. And he was bright. I mean, our brandywines are doing really well. I don't really know the name of the kind of tomato that we're actually wanting, but we're wanting one that's like a major slicer that's perfect for like tomato sandwiches. And some of those brandywines aren't that great just because they're kind of funky shaped, but they taste good and they're pretty. We only have one plant that is like the size of little cherry tomatoes, and it's a sun sugar, and they turn this little yellow color. This one started to split, but they're so cute. And Tyler, he even said that he was pleasantly surprised with how much he actually liked these. And I'm liking them too, and I'm really happy that there are still new flowers coming up on this plant, so that way we can still get more throughout the rest of the season. So that was the first tomato row. So we're going to turn the corner and we're going to come down the second row. So on both sides of this is tomatoes. And then this is actually one of the rows that I was able to go all the way down. And so that was a lot of work. I had to weed everything and then put the fabric down. It was hot this morning, but I got a lot of it done. But our tomatoes are doing they're doing pretty good. And earlier this season, they were having some trouble, but we did give them some love and attention, and they're doing really good. One thing I did this year that I'm not sure I'm going to do next year is I pruned them really heavily. And for some reason, I don't think that was good for them. Because when I did that, they kind of quit growing, and it made me really scared that I maybe pruned them too far, and then they just didn't have enough to keep going. But as you can see, they're doing pretty all right. Now back to these brandywines. I can't help it. I am pretty sure that we will probably always grow at least 1 or 2 plants of brandywines, and the reason I say that is just because they're so big and they're so cool looking. You know, sometimes in your garden, you have to have things that are going to bring you joy. And sometimes a cool looking tomato can bring you a lot of joy. So you don't always have to grow things just for the like logical food purpose. Like, plant things that bring you a lot of joy. Alright, so now we're at the end of our tomato rows. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this corner up here. And now this row right here is the other side of the tomatoes, and then we start our sweet peppers, which is our bell peppers. And these, like, they still look like really small plants, but they are loaded with peppers. Like this one right here, it's probably ready to go ahead and pick. It is just so awesome. And like every single one of these plants have at least 4 or 5 bell peppers on them growing, and they're doing great. I came out here, probably about 3 or 4 days ago, and I harvested a huge bowl full of peppers. Now, most of these are all the same. They're all just plain bell peppers. We did plant some that were called a Golden California, and they're doing okay. I don't really know if I've gotten much off of that plant, but for sure we will definitely always do, I want to say it was called a YOLO Wonder bell pepper. Maybe that's what it was called. But that one is definitely going to be in our garden again next year. So we're back at the end of the row. So I'm going to turn. And then now we're in the row, which on each side is the bell peppers. Now, these, I mean, I can't say they're all bell peppers. They're sweet peppers. Because down here at the end of this aisle here, we have a sweet banana pepper. And then I think it's called a Cameron maybe? Well, let's go down there and see what it's called. But they're not ready yet. They're green, but they're supposed to be red. So let me show you. Okay, so I was wrong. They're called a Carmen sweet red pepper. And so there's 3 on here that are really good sized peppers. but I'm just waiting for them to turn red so that way they can look like the picture. This plant here next to the Carmen is a sweet banana, and we have one growing on it right now. A few days ago I did come out here and harvest a few, so that's why there's only one, but these have been really, really good this year too. Alright, so let's turn this corner here. I hope I'm not making y'all dizzy by turning so many corners. But now on this row right here, of course we have our sweet peppers over here, and then over here along this whole thing are green beans. Now if you've been here since the beginning of these garden videos, these green beans here, about halfway through, they for some reason, they're just not doing great, and I'm not sure why. Like, I've given them extra nutrients and everything, so I'm not sure why this half of the row is not growing very well. But once we get about halfway down, you can start to see that these plants here are doing really well, and they're growing really big. Now, I will say one thing I learned about these that I have is these are more of a bush bean, where instead of the plant growing up the trellis like this, they're just going to bush out. And so that I'm not a fan of, just because we don't have a ton of space between our rows here. And so I don't want to take away walking space or accidentally walk on a plant when I'm walking through checking on everything. So if you have any recommendations on some type of green bean plant that would crawl up a trellis, let me know down in the comments. But I will say, they do really well. These here that are actually growing big, I've gotten several green beans off of these. Like, here's some here. And I think it was not last night, but the night before. I finally had enough to make a side dish for dinner, and they actually tasted really good. So since we're at the end of this row here, and these are the rest of the trellis plants, I wanted to show you this back row, which is our sunflower row. And this one right here currently is the only one that has open flowers, but I mean, look at them. Hi! Can y'all see them in there? Those are our teenager chickens. But like I was saying, having flowers in the garden is pure joy for me, but it also helps pollinate the plants because it brings in so many butterflies and bees, and I'll tell y'all about that here in a minute. But now, since we turned the corner from our green beans, we're over here by the chicken coop where our chicks are growing up before they can come out on grass. We have a row of squash plants, and these are doing, oh my goodness, amazing. See, there's one right there. We're going to be harvesting here in a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to do a walkthrough with you first. But pretty much every single squash plant we have is doing really, really good. Now that one, it looks a little sad right now, but I think it's because when I was weeding in here a couple days ago, I kind of knocked it over. So we're just going to let her rest and bounce back here in a little bit. But I mean, look at all these. They're so big, and they're producing amazing fruit. Let's see. This one has a lot of little ones on it. Now this one over here, it has some that I need to get. Like, we need to get that one today. This one over here, it has like 3 I think we need to get. So we have 1, 2, 3. Yeah, at least 3 we need to get today. And then that one has 1. I might let that one grow a little bit more. This whole row is nothing but yellow squash. And then our second row is, I think it's about 3 zucchini plants and then 1 squash plant there at the end. But I mean, look how big they are. They're doing so well. I'm so excited. I'm hoping that we have quite a few zucchini plants or zucchinis growing, so that way we can make a yummy dinner tonight. One thing next year that we're thinking about, see, I have 2 right there I need to get today. But one thing we're thinking about is next year not doing the crook neck. We're thinking about doing just all straight neck. Y'all let me know down in the comments, which one do y'all put in your garden? Along this fence here, and then along the front fence there, we have alternating flowers that are zinnia flowers, which are absolutely beautiful. Can you see them? I come out here and I pick some probably every week. And I showed y'all a few videos back on how to be able to leave them in your kitchen for like 2 weeks at a time, and it really does work. I've been able to leave them in my kitchen. I've gifted them to other people, and they're just so beautiful. But about every other plant, we have the zinnia flowers, and then we have some sort of hot pepper. Now, this plant right here, that tag says poblano, and I'm telling you, these peppers don't get any bigger than this right here. I don't know what's going on. So I'm still not sure what kind of plant this is or what kind of pepper it is. Like here's one. Like they just don't get very big. And so I'm not sure what they are. Y'all let me know if you have a plant like this, or tell me, is this a poblano and I'm just being impatient and it needs to grow bigger? Let me know. These orange zinnias right here are probably one of my favorites because they're, oh, do you see those butterflies? I'm telling you, this garden is full of butterflies and bumblebees, and it's just so beautiful. Like you can look out the back door and just see the butterflies flying around. It's so fun. And then here we have some jalapenos. Oh, well there it is. So I'll go ahead and pick that one. But a lot of the hot peppers we have are jalapenos. But coming around here, we have cayenne peppers. And I've gotten a few, and here's one right here. Go ahead and pick that one. This, what I'm wanting to do with all of these is I want to dehydrate them and like put them in a food processor and just have like cayenne pepper. So if y'all have ever done that, let me know. But I have quite a few cayennes on these plants here. I think I have like 3 or 4 cayenne plants. I knew for sure we liked jalapenos, so I planted more jalapenos. Look at that flower. Oh my goodness. This is so fun. I hope y'all love this as much as I do. But then there's another cayenne right there. Let me find some of those jalapeno plants. But I knew for sure we liked jalapeno plants, so I wanted to grow more of those than the cayennes because I wasn't really sure about cayenne. Here's another jalapeno. We get lots of these, don't we? So I'm standing up under the loofahs again because it is hot again today. My husband sent me a thing that it said like it feels like it's 112 and it's really humid. So I do have some things we need to harvest like I showed y'all when we were walking around. So I'm gonna go ahead and harvest those and then we're gonna head inside. So I was able to get this big old bowl full of nothing but good garden produce. We have some squash, zucchini, peppers, bell pepper, hot peppers, and okra. And before we go in, here I have some basil that just, you know, all of a sudden, oh wait, oh, the bumblebee flew away, darn. All right, but here in this container by the gate, I have some basil. So I want to go ahead and get some of this basil for our dinner tonight since we're having lasagna. It's been a few hours since we were out in the garden. I decided to come in and cool off because it is so hot outside. But our neighbors were so sweet and they gifted us this huge bag of purple whole peas. And me and Tyler love purple whole peas. And you know what's crazy is that it is really hard to actually find these at the grocery store. Sometimes we will go and look for a can and you can't find it. They're always sold out. And so I am so thankful that they gave these to us so I can preserve these. And then maybe throughout this whole winter we will not have to worry about getting some purple whole peas at the grocery store. Before we get started on dinner tonight, I wanted to let y'all know that this video is a part of a collaboration with Tiffany over at Our Small Town Life. Tiffany is really one of the sweetest people I have ever seen on YouTube, and I really mean that. When I watch Tiffany's channel and her videos, I'm just filled with a lot of peace and joy. She just has that type of personality that you're going to love her. And she is just a Southern mama who does homesteading, homemaking, and homeschooling. So if you don't already know her, which I bet most of you already do, I am going to leave her video and her channel linked down in my description box. A lot like my video today, she's going to be sharing her garden and just a different recipe of incorporating your garden harvest in your everyday dinners for your family. So like I said, her information will be down in my description box. If you are coming over from Tiffany's channel, thank you so much. My name is Kirsty, and here on this channel, of course, we share a ton of yummy recipes, but I'm also starting to incorporate more of our homestead life here on this channel. We have chickens, we have our dog, we have a lot of things coming up in the future that are really exciting, and I'm excited to share that with y'all when they come. So I would love it if you would subscribe and become part of this YouTube community. For our zucchini lasagna, of course, we need a zucchini, and I have this massive zucchini. So I'm going to try and make it with just this one. If you have the smaller, like regular size that you would like get at a grocery store, you'd probably need like maybe 2 or 3. I'm going to try with just this one. If I need more, I'll get some more out. But a lot of people, when they do this, they'll use a mandolin to slice it really thin. I don't have a mandolin, so we're going to try our best to do it with a knife, and we're going to do our best. An idea I have for this, I mean, there's no perfect way. I mean, I guess there is a perfect way, but I think it'll be okay. I'm going to try slicing it down the middle just because it is so big. Like this. I'm going to sit this one over here to the side. And then I'm going to try, I still think this would be too difficult to cut it this way. So what if we just did smaller slices? That might make it a little easier. Alright, so I'm going to get a good grip on that. Now we're going to try and slice it in a thin, not too bad. I think this will work. But of course, if you had a mandolin, this would work way better. So I'm just going to cut these up into really thin strips like that, or thinner if you can, but I just don't want to cut myself, so I'm not trying to be too fancy here. Now that we have the zucchini sliced up thin, I'm going to, here in this big bowl, we're just going to take our zucchini, place it in, take some salt, and what the salt is going to do is it will draw out the moisture in the zucchini. And we're going to let this sit here for about 10 to 15 minutes and let that moisture come out. Because if you know, zucchini is made of a ton of water. Sorry y'all, I keep banging my ring on the side of the bowl. So we'll let this sit here for about 10 to 15 minutes. We'll go ahead and get started on the next step of this recipe, and then we will come back to this and I'll show you what we do. The next step is optional, but I did pick this beautiful bell pepper today from the garden. And so I'm thinking I want to add in some extra bell pepper and an onion to our tomato sauce. For our tomato sauce, I'm just going to use the jar ragu. But this is completely optional. This is just going to depend on your preference and your family's preference. But we love bell pepper and we love onion. So I'm going to go ahead and dice these up thin, and we'll add it in when we put in our ground beef. Go ahead and add in our bell pepper and onion to this pan, and then I'm going to go grab my ground beef as well. My ground beef is done, so I went ahead and drained some of the excess grease that was on it. So at this time, I'm going to add in my jar of spaghetti sauce. You can use homemade spaghetti sauce if you have some. I have not made any this year. or just use your favorite that you can get at the grocery store. And to our spaghetti sauce, I'm going to go ahead and add in that fresh basil that we picked from the garden. I know that buying the store-bought spaghetti sauce, it already has a lot of good flavor, but since we already had the basil, why not add a little bit more flavor? I do want to let this sit here and simmer just a few minutes, and that's perfect because we need to make something up with our ricotta real quick. While that sauce simmers, I need to take my ricotta cheese. I'm going to place it in this large mixing bowl. Oop. Well, it just came right out, didn't it? Maybe I should have got a bigger mixing bowl. I do that all the time. I always get too small of a mixing bowl. And then I'm going to take an egg. This is one of our fresh duck eggs. And in my opinion, duck eggs taste the same as a chicken egg. To me, the only difference is that yes, they are larger and the shell is thicker. So it's a little bit harder to crack than just a regular chicken egg. And then we're going to take some grated Parmesan and Romano. If you don't like the Romano, you can always just do Parmesan. But I'm just going to kind of eyeball that until it looks good for me. I like a lot of cheese, so I think that'll be good. And then we're just going to mix this until it's very, very well incorporated together. Now that we have that incorporated, I'm just going to move this over here to the side. And I have a baking dish here that is lined with paper towel. And we need to take care of these zucchini. So I'm going to take my slices of zucchini and just kind of lay them out on the paper towel. And then I'm going to take this second thing of paper towel and we're going to place it on top and get as much moisture out of these zucchinis as we can. So that way when it's baking in the lasagna form, it doesn't get super mushy and it doesn't make our lasagna watery. I think we are ready to assemble the lasagna. So I'm just going to use a 9x13 pan. And the way I want to assemble mine is I want to put some sauce here on the bottom. Not too much, but enough to cover. I mean, we're just going to assemble it like you would a regular lasagna, but instead of noodles, we're using zucchini. I was really excited to find this recipe because sometimes I have a hard time coming up with recipes of using the fresh produce that's not just like sauteing, you know what I mean? So after we do that, I'm going to lay down some zucchini. I was thinking about this a little bit ago when I was drying these off, and I was like, you know, this isn't necessarily going to look Pinterest perfect because I don't have a mandolin, but it's going to be delicious no matter what. So don't let your fear of like not having the perfect looking plate or the perfect looking platter to keep you from making these delicious recipes, because they're gonna taste exactly the same. So then I want to come on with some more sauce over the zucchini. And really, you can layer this however you want to. This is just the way I'm doing it. So feel free to improvise. And then after our sauce, I think I'm going to do one more scoop. Alright, there we go. Now after the sauce, we're going to do a layer of the ricotta cheese mixture. I'm just going to kind of try and smooth that out just the best I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're just going to continue that process until either we run out of something or the pan gets full. Whichever one comes first. Now I wanted to talk to y'all while I was making this, like assembling the next layer. I wanted to kind of talk to y'all about the future of our garden and like what we're thinking about doing to expand next year. We are learning a lot this year. If this is your first time being here, Tyler and I, we have had gardens in the past, but we've never had any this big. We lived in a neighborhood before we bought this house, and we were able to have, you know, a decent sized little backyard garden, and it was fun. But at that time, I also broke my leg, and I was not able to take care of it like a garden needs to be taken care of. And so this year, even though it's not our first time gardening, we are kind of looking at it as a first time gardening experience because we have a lot to learn, of course. And then plus, you know, it's new soil, new ground, and you just kind of figure out what works best for you and where you are. And so we're thinking next year we want to expand the garden and make it bigger. Where the garden is right now, that is the chicken yard. And so that's why on the gate it says Pickens Chickens, because that's where the chickens go during the fall and winter. And so we're thinking about expanding that whole area like backwards towards the back of the property. And we think what we would like to do is in that spot next year grow sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, and onions. And we love potatoes, sweet potatoes, onions. We love all of that. And so we are wanting to try our hand at that. If you grow those things, are they hard? Or what is your favorite variety of potatoes to grow? Because, you know, we've actually never grown any of those before. Even in our little backyard garden, we didn't grow potatoes or onions. So that will be another new experience for us. And then also, you know, a lot of these we have big dreams for our property here. And so all the time, Tyler and I will just, you know, we'll sit around and we'll talk about what we want to do next year, or, you know, what are some things we can even maybe try and do this year. But another thing we're wanting to do is there's a part of our property that our neighbors, they had told us that they had gardened with the previous owner in another spot at the more at the front of the property. And so what we're thinking about doing is taking a big section up at the front of the property and growing more corn, which we need to get better at corn because I still don't really know what I'm doing. But we're wanting to grow corn and a big watermelon patch and a pumpkin patch. And so I think that is going to be a lot of fun. We're still looking into the logistics of that. That'll probably be something we do next year. I don't see us having the means or the time to do that this year. So I think that'll be okay though. It's always fun to dream about your property and what you want to do in the future. And so we do that all the time here. We're always talking about what we want to do, how cool it'll be when we can do this. And one big project that we're actually wanting to do pretty soon, you know, as soon as we can save up the funds for it, is the front of our property is not fenced off. On 3 sides of the property we have barbed wire fence, and so as soon as possible we're wanting to fence off the front, you know, not only for the safety of us, you know, having some privacy, and then also for Moses so he doesn't run out into the highway. But we're wanting to get that done because there is an animal that we really want to get one day. And before we can do that, we have to have a fence up. Okay, back to the lasagna. I've been talking your ear off. I ran out of ingredients, and so that means it's time to top it off. I have some shredded mozzarella cheese. We're just going to sprinkle that all over the top, really however much you want. If you just like light cheese, that's fine. If you like a lot of cheese, fill her up. Personal preference, whatever you like the most. But, like I was saying about that animal that we want to get one day, it's probably not something that's going to happen super soon. I mean, once the fence is up, all possibilities could come to fruition. But just at the moment, we're really wanting to get that fence up so that way we can start working towards the other dreams that we have that require that fence. Okay, I probably talked your ear off enough. So we need to put this in the oven. I have it preheated to 375 degrees, and I'm going to cook mine for about 35 to 40 minutes. Okay, y'all, so this is really, really good. It has amazing flavor. The zucchini is perfect. I don't miss the noodles at all. So I really think your kids would like this too. And I'm really excited to have a recipe to make during the summer, especially when that produce is coming in from the garden. Now, there is one thing about the recipe that I need to tell you about. So, you know how we did the zucchini, we put it in the bowl with salt, and then we dried it off with paper towel? In my opinion, that may not be the best way to do it. I went with that recipe just because it seemed the easiest process, and I'm going to say that's probably not the best process. I read another recipe where what they did was they sliced their zucchini up just like we did, but then they roasted it in the oven for a little while. So then that way, like, that moisture really evaporated out of the zucchini. That is what I'm going to recommend for you to do. I will leave a recipe down in the description box that's like that, because I really think next time that's what I'm going to try. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. I had a lot of fun just hanging out with you in the garden and then coming in and cooking a really delicious dinner. Don't forget to check out Tiffany's channel and her video. I have it linked down in my description box below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.